Good afternoon. We have just had the great pleasure of watching Zombie Bouet, Zombie Flesh Eaters, and we now have the amazing pleasure of having Mr. Ian McCulloch and Ottaviano Dell'Acqua with us, and we've got Deralba on the end who is going to help with the translation because I talk far too fast sometimes. Let's give him a big round of applause first of all. And thank you very much for joining us. Really good to be here. And I thought last year, straight after you were hit with us last year, Ian, I thought, yeah, we need to show this. How did you come to be involved in the film?
Sorry. The TV series Survivors was a huge success in Italy. In the UK, we had viewing figures of this is 1975. We had viewing figures of 10 million people sort of watch it on Wednesday nights, and it was sold to various places in the world. But the place where it was the most successful was in Italy, where it was called Sopravvissuti. And it was because of Sopravvissuti that I was asked to do this film. I have to say that the guy who dubbed me in Italy had the deepest, most profondo voice that is possible to have. I mean, it sounded really butch, which is why I think they signed me up. And apart from my lack of hair, it was my lack of voice which disappointed them when I turned up on set.
And I guess the same question to yourself, Ottaviano.
Lo stunt coordinator era mio fratello. No, tu traduci, io parlo. Lo stunt coordinator era mio fratello Arnaldo e tutta la famiglia, noi siamo 5 fratelli e 5 sorelle e tutti e 10 facciamo, perché veniamo da una famiglia circense, e facciamo tutti cinema, stunt nel cinema.
5 brothers and 5 sisters from his family. They're all involved in stunt in movies, and his brother was a stunt coordinator on Zombie, and so he became involved because of that. He comes from a family of circus performers, so eventually they all kind of drifted into doing stunts for cinema.
Poi il personaggio mio è stato scelto proprio da Fulci. Fulci ha detto lo zombie con i vermi nell'occhio lo deve fare Ottaviano.
And Fulci was very specific that the zombie with the maggots in his eyes had to be him.
Thank you, Fulci. Grazie.
And do you mind me asking why it was that specific request?
Perché c'è stata questa richiesta specifica?
Do you know why?
Perché lui mi stimava molto, io ero bravissimo come stunt. Io ero come lui, Fulci era molto
senza paura,
fuori di testa, come me, un po' pazzoi. Quindi facevo delle cose, per esempio il primo zombie che viene investito dalla Jeep, quello sono io, e mi ha preso in pieno le gambe la Jeep. Lui guidava alt livello.
It's basically because Fulci and him had a kinship, and they thought very much alike, and he was very fearless, and he wouldn't. He was kind of not unhinged, but he would do anything, and so he had a great admiration for his craft. And in fact, he plays other zombies in the movies, including the first one that gets run over by Ian in the Jeep, and he got hit in the legs literally. Did you get hurt?
No, a posto.
Was okay.
Quando abbiamo girato la scena del fuoco, però lo devo far vedere quello che voleva Fulci.
Okay.
Io adesso cammino e gli faccio vedere com'era nella storia con le fiamme. Okay?
So he's going to show you what it was actually like during the fire scene with Fulci. So he's going to show you.
Questo era quello che voleva fare.
That's what Fulci wanted.
Siccome fuori sotto c'era tanto fuoco.
And there was a lot of fire, though.
Perché il fuoco era sotto e Fulci ha detto siete bravissimi, eccezionali, bravi.
And Fulci loved it, obviously, and it was mostly the reaction to the fire. But Fulci really was enthusiastic about their interpretation.
Bravi, bravi.
I heard that story for the first time last night. I mean, it's unbelievable. You have to walk on real coals, which is what Fulci did to get that effect from Ottaviano. Also, just something what he said, there were complaints that the zombies looked all alike. And they said it was because they were brothers and sisters.
So, Ian, what exactly was it that enticed you to take on this project as such? What was the big draw? Because I know a lot of people were slightly sceptical on working with Italian projects at that moment in time. What was the pull for you, other than money?
You're sort of saying, why did I marry the magician Daniels? It's the same question. Money. Yeah. I was offered more money than I'd made in the theatre or TV for 7 weeks' work, more than a year's worth of money. Fantastic locations in New York, the Dominican Republic, and Rome. A living allowance which I could live off and buy as much clothes as I wanted to. And they offered to fly my girlfriend, partner, or whatever, first class to any of the 3 locations, wherever they were, Rome, the Dominican Republic, or New York, for 7 weeks. And there was probably going to be another 2 weeks in Rome, sort of finishing off dubbing. And it seemed to me something which I could not, would never dare to sort of turn down. And they didn't want to see me, didn't want to audition me, didn't want to test me. All they asked was that I met up with Fulci in London just to see how we got on.
Yeah. So I guess the next question being is, did everything you were promised become fulfilled?
Yeah, everything turned out except the money. And Teaser, who was a very sort of bright girl, on the last sort of days of shooting, we hadn't been paid. And she said, I wouldn't dare to do it. She just said she wasn't going to work unless the money was turned up. And within an hour, there was an envelope with her full pay. I mean, I was paid $7,000. The money was in an envelope within an hour. But I mean, I wouldn't have had the nerve to have said, because I had no idea who these people were that were involved in it. I mean, they could have been mafia, and there were stories about contamination, that there was some strange money involved in that. But I mean, she just sort of said, I'm not going to be here unless I get my money. So that was the only thing that didn't turn up. They flew us everywhere. I mean, it was from that point of view, it was an absolute sort of joy to do. And then you just presume that's it, it's finished, it's over and done with, and it'll never be heard of again.
And yet, here we are, some 45 years later, watching it again. And was anybody here that saw it for the first time today? Okay, got a couple of hands at the back. And that's really interesting, that even 45 years later, these films are generating new audiences. Whereas, like you say, you probably thought it was just going to come and go.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously sort of grateful for it, because I was just saying to someone else a moment ago, I mean, it's a pension for life. I mean, I did a two-handed show with, you know who I mean by Kate O'Mara?
Yes.
Actress. I did a two-handed show about Macbeth. It was called An Evening with the Macbeths. The first half was stories by and about the Shakespeare, about the play, about productions, funny reviews, and the curse. And the second half was a two-handed performance between Kate and myself playing Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. And someone said, Michael Billington, who was the theatre critic for The Guardian, came and saw it at the Actors Studio in London, and he said, this is a pension for life. You'll be able to do this all over the world for the rest of your life. It's a real pension. And then, although neither of us believed at the time, Kate and I fell out, and we never did it again. It was never done anywhere else again. And what turned out to be a pension for life is this film and the films that succeeded it. Because I said my so-called film career finished after I finished in Italy. I never had another interview, a chat, request for me to do any film, be a film, go and be auditioned for the next 30 years that I have acted. And it was all because of this film. So it was horrible in that way, but in another way I say it's because of why I'm here, why I go to conventions in the US and in Germany, and it's because of what you're talking about, the magic of this film and the affection that people have for it, that I'm here and I'm benefiting from it. So it's worked sort of both ways in my life, but happily that's the way it's working now.
And for Ottaviano, what do you think is the enduring thing for this film? Why do you think it's still being appreciated so many years later?
Io penso dare un motivo per cui il film ancora oggi abbia questo grande successo è difficile da spiegarlo. Io penso perché sia stato fatto veramente con il cuore, ringraziando anche gli attori, perché abbiamo fatto scene molto pericolose e loro erano presenti, lì era tutto dal vero, non c'era effetti speciali, green screen, non esisteva niente, tutto quello che era nel film era dal vero. I pali che cascavano davanti a loro, le fiamme, quindi c'era uno staff molto 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 affiatato con noi, con gli attori, con tutti i reparti, e penso che questo trasmetta l'amore di questo film e che ancora oggi sia portato, poi grazie anche a Fulci che è un grande regista, ha portato questo successo enorme.
So first of all, the main reason is the love that they poured into this film, which is visible in every single aspect of it. Fulci was an amazing director, and that comes across, and also the love that he put into these projects. And also, they were very real. Everything was happening for real. There was no green screen. There was limited special effects. Everything was actually happening, and the other actors, the actors they were working with, were amazing. And so that kind of elevated the movie into something that's really memorable, and there's an element of risk also that's quite visible, and perhaps people get that because of all the things happening very much for real.
Questo, grazie a Jan che è stato fortissimo.
And Ian was amazing.
He's a good sound coordinator.
And so, could you explain to us a little bit about the setting up of the scene where you're coming out of the earth?
Ci puoi spiegare un attimino come avete fatto per la scena in cui uscite dalla Terra?
Allora, prima lo dico in italiano,
sì,
poi
sì.
tu lo... Allora, mi truccavano, hanno fatto una buca, mi sotterravano dentro, mi mettevano 20 centimetri di materiale terroso, io avevo una cannuccia per respirare, Fulci mi diceva conta nella tua mente quando sei coperto 15 e poi esci fuori. Lui voleva che uscivo direttamente quasi in piedi, quindi abbiamo dovuto fare un movimento che io le gambe ce l'avevo sotterrate e io ero sdraiato, avevo dei pesi sulle gambe, quindi la forza mi aiutava a tirarmi su terra.
Okay, so c'era un buco, avevano scavato una fossa.
Diglielo in inglese.
Ah, sorry. E uno. Sorry. So there was this big hole in the ground, and he was made to lie in it. He was breathing through a straw, and he had about 8 inches of soil on top of him. Fulci had this idea, thought that he had to come out of the earth almost standing, as if emerging slowly. And so he was lying down, and he had these weights on his feet, which helped with balancing himself as he was coming through.
Esatto.
Grazie.
E ogni tanto mangiava i vermi, perché erano vermi veri, si staccavano, entravano in bocca, buonissimi.
And every now and then some maggot would just stray into his mouth, and it was lovely. Yummy.
Was there any point in time that you felt endangered during the shooting of that scene?
Ha mai sentito un po' di essere in pericolo durante queste scene?
No, assolutamente no. La mia vita è il pericolo e io ho dato la mia vita per il pericolo.
Absolutely not. My life is danger. I've given my life over to danger. And he loves this job.
And Ian, so you know you're this actor from the UK, and you've gone out to Italy, and you know where was McCulloch actually shot?
That location was in the Dominican Republic.
Okay, and so you're reading the script, you've accepted the fact that there's all this money, but was there ever a point that you just looked through the script and just thought to yourself, this is far too crazy for, you know, sharks underwater and fighting and zombies and...
I honestly don't remember reading the script. I don't know. I'd have done it anyway, but to me, I was just doing a Hammer House of Horror film. I did not expect it and did not see really any of the nasty stuff for which it's become famous or infamous. I thought I was doing a Hammer House of Horror, that it would be shown, forgotten, and that would be the end of it. And to say, I don't know whether you've seen some of those antique roadshow things where they turn up with props and all the rest of it. I was saying earlier, after I'd done a scene, I used to tear a script up. I should have kept all these scripts because they're, it's worth thousands of pounds. An original script from Zombie Flesh Eaters or almost any other sort of TV station did. Just so they were talking about danger. The most dangerous thing, in all honesty, is not during making the film, but after the film. I can't pretend that I was great friends. I adored Richard Johnson. I idolised him as an actor. I can't claim that I was a great friend of Richard, Al, or Ottaviano while we were making the film. But we've all, for several years, went to lots and lots of conventions in the States. And the most dangerous thing was going out with the three of them after the convention. They would insist, Richard's suggestion, that we went out to eat in sort of fashionable, smart restaurants full of sensible people, and they would all sing the national anthem of their countries. So Richard was singing the English national anthem, and then Al and Ottaviano would sing the Italian national anthem. And if you watch rugby and listen to the Italian national anthem, it goes on and on for about 3 hours, and every time you think it's finished, they start again. It is embarrassing, and it's embarrassing even to watch it just looking at a television screen, but being in a restaurant where you're about to eat and they start doing this, it is really terrifying.
And Ottaviano, obviously the film was really fresh in your head because you sat and watched it just now. And what was your favourite moment during the film? To shoot, I mean.
Più preferito. Ok, dare una valuta alla cosa preferita è difficile. Diciamo, è chiaro, oggi io sono qui per questa immagine dello zombie con i vermi nell'occhio, quindi ringrazio Fulci perché mi ha dato la possibilità oggi, e non solo oggi, sono tanti anni che mi incontro con loro che sono grandi attori. Io in fondo sono una maschera e niente di più, sono un viso con questi vermi e nient'altro, una protesi ai denti, e questo io ringrazio per questa situazione che mi porta in giro per il mondo, a incontrare tanta gente. La prima volta che io vengo qui in Inghilterra, ma il primo impatto sia con Spencer, che non ci conoscevamo, è stato subito affabile, un incontro bello, vero, reale. E la gente stessa, quelli che stamattina venivano a chiedere l'autografo, era come se eravamo amici da tempo. Questo.
It's difficult to choose a particular moment in the film, but the biggest thing that he brings with him about shooting is what's happened afterwards. So being able to travel the world and about this film. And this is his first time in England, but the warmth he's encountered, and even meeting Spencer for the first time, he's found a kinship, and a wonderful warmth from everyone. People that were coming up to him this morning to ask for his autograph. That's the wonderful thing that he brings with him about the movies, also from the movie, and also having worked with such wonderful actors such as Ian and the rest of the cast is something that has made all this experience all the more special.
Okay, let's get some audience questions. Can we get some hands of anyone? Right, okay. Gentleman at the front. Stephen, isn't it?
I've got a question for Ian. Ian, with respect to Survivors, did you A, watch the remake, and B, when the pandemic happened in 2020, what were your thoughts about the pandemic in relation to the making of the original Survivors?
What was the first part again?
Did you watch the remake?
I watched the first episode and then I didn't watch anymore. I heard it was going to be done. I'm sorry, it's about survivors rather than about zombies. I heard it was going to be done, and I thought I would offer my service. I wrote 3 scripts, so I thought I'd been in 20 odd episodes. I'd written 3 scripts. I knew quite a bit about it, and so I said if I could help in any way, I would be happy to do so. I sent off the letter to I was told the correct person at BBC. 6 months later, there was no answer. So I then did get a letter saying you'd actually sent the first letter to the wrong place. Here is the address and the lady you should send your letter to. So I rewrote the letter and sent it to the lady who was the producer of it, and it was never answered. I was then told to get in touch with Terry Nation's agent, who was, I think it was called Hancock. I think it was Hancock's brother's son. I rang him up to say I was involved in the first series and I wanted help, and he said, could you send me your CV? Which so I then wasn't involved in it at all, and I tried to set up 2 remakes of it myself. One which had been agreed with the BBC Scotland, was turned down by BBC England, and I just found that when I was watching it, it was too much of everything. There was one of everybody. It didn't seem to gel. And I say, after one episode, I just decided that was enough. But I say, it's the 50th year this time. And as you know, we're going to show a couple of episodes tomorrow, which I hope you will all be at, incidentally. But it took me 6 months when I wrote to them saying, I want to do a one-man show about this. I want to talk about making it, and then I want to show one of the episodes I wrote. Can I have your permission? And 6 months later, I got a reply saying, yeah, you can do it. So I don't know how much interest there is from within the BBC as it's happening now. When COVID struck, I was rung up by BBC Scotland, who asked the same question that you sort of asked, that this was very prescient. The series had been very, very prescient, and what did I think about that? And I mean, it was exactly like COVID. And have all of you seen Survivors in any shape or form? Well, I mean, I think you'll agree that those opening credits are the most ominous and prescient credits that have ever been of any sort of television series. The credits themselves, what they sort of showed, and the music was absolutely forbidding and set an example of what COVID was going to be.
Okay, gentleman here.
My question's for you, Ian. When you, I don't know how well your memory serves you for a particular scene in the film, but when Olga was killed,
Who?
quite viciously,
Olga Carlotta, sorry.
You, four of you walk in to see her brutally murdered in front of you, and they're all eating her, and now the look on your faces really shows quite a lot of shock, and obviously as an actor that's your job, but what prepped you for that scene? Did they keep you away from seeing it and you wanted to see that carnage, or did they already prep you for it?
Well, I hate to say it's all a big joke. I mean, you know it's not real, and you're aware that it's all been going on while you're sitting outside having a cup of coffee or whatever, and then you're just going to walk in and you're going to have to pull whatever, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, whatever. I'm probably overdoing it in my case, but none of that horrible stuff makes any effect on you at all when you're doing it. It's like him. I mean, that's that fantastic face, but I don't know how long he was in the makeup department, being done by Gianetto De Rossi to sort of make him look the way he did. But it's just there. I mean, there's nothing frightening about it. There's nothing that's upsetting about it. And as you sort of said during the question, I mean, you just have to act it. You know, good or bad, and sometimes it's bad. You're afraid, but you hope those bits are going to be cut out.
You telling me zombies aren't real?
I think I've met a few, but I think it was when I was playing golf.
I thought you were going to say just today. Mark? Do you recall how the underwater scene?
That was all done by another unit, quite separate from us, and I don't know, they did it in Mexico or somewhere, with somebody who sort of specialised in training fish. I mean, I think it looks like a fishy Labrador. It's obviously an incredible bit of film footage, but I mean, I'm afraid that I find it really unconvincing because they seem to be in love with one another rather than.
Any other questions out there? Don't be shy. Okay, over here.
Hi, really enjoyed the film. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know what kind of director Lucio Fulci was. Was he like an improvisatory director, or was he quite meticulous, different styles?
Should we start with Ottavio?
Allora, dare un senso specifico a Fulci non è facile, un regista molto molto difficile, ombroso, dipende come si svegliava la mattina e arrivava sul set, cambiava umore facilmente e se per sbaglio prendeva di punta come aveva preso Auretta Gay, che aveva un astio verso sta attrice, era veramente dolori.
It's very difficult to pin him down. He really was a bit moody, and his style, he had a lot of shadows behind him in a way, and some of them emerged depending on how he got up in the morning, how he felt on the day, and particularly he took a particular dislike or he picked on Auretta Gay, and that was quite unpleasant to witness. For some reason, he just didn't take to her, and so yeah.
Praticamente esprime quello che si vede nel film, perché buona parte è lui esprimeva quello che aveva anche verso gli attori tutti. Lui era proprio un capitano, il capitano della barca, e dava i ritmi quasi a tutti i reparti.
He was the captain.
Nella sua follia ha fatto veramente.
In his madness, he was the captain of the ship. So what you see in the movie, he directed everyone. He was in charge of everyone, and everybody follows his orders. So what you see in the film is very much his maybe life vision, la sua
visione, quello che sentiva lui dentro.
Yes, yeah. What he felt inside was externalized in the film.
A lot of men in the theatre rather than film need a sort of whipping boy or a whipping girl. And what Ottaviano sort of saying about Auretta, I mean, he certainly sort of picked on her and bullied her fairly mercilessly when he wanted to. But he seemed to adopt a sort of carrot and stick, and the carrot wasn't sort of working well. I mean, I don't think she was an actress, and I don't know that she did anything. Sadly, she's no longer with us. But he certainly sort of bullied her, and the only, if you can say so, good thing about it is that I think she's just as good as anyone else in the film as a result. I mean, she wasn't an actress, but she more than sort of pulls her weight. She looks fantastic. She does everything that she was asked or told to do by Fulci. But as Ottaviano said, watching it happen was not pleasant and seemingly unnecessary, but he thought that that was the only way that he could get the performance out of which he did that the sort of film sort of merited. But it's he could be a really sort of moody guy, shouted a lot when you sort of started sort of filming. What one should have done beforehand, when I certainly did, was sort of look up his CV and see what he'd done, because he'd done so many films and he was an absolute professional, and he surrounded himself with fantastic cameraman, the music, Fabio Fritz's music and all the rest of it. He made sure he had all the right accompaniments to make these sort of films work. And that was his choice and his direction. And to me, one of the sad things about the film is that he's no longer around to answer questions, because the first question and the most often asked question is, what was Fulci really like? The director, Ottaviano and I can answer about the real Fulci. I have no idea. You'd have to ask his daughter, and they're the only ones. When I sort of met him, first of all, I met him in Rome. In London, we had dinner together, and you try to find some sort of connection between the sort of human being, and it was sort of fairly difficult because his English wasn't sort of brilliant. But all that came over for me was that he loved his family, his daughters. I think he had 2 daughters. He loved his horses, and he loved sailing. And other than that, I had, as far as I can remember, I had one meal with him, where the rest of the company were also enjoying during the 7 weeks that we made the film. There was no human connection between us at all, other than on the set. And you just knew that when he was doing it, he was a master of his profession. And he had a vision of what this film was going to turn out like. And fortunately for him, and fortunately for us, it was a vision that sort of worked out in the end.
Any last questions? Okay, well, I'd just like to say thank you very much to both of you for coming. I'm really grateful. And let's give them all a big round of applause.
Thank you.
One more comment coming back.
Sì, assolutamente. So one thing, when I was translating before, there was one thing I didn't translate, I apologize. He also said that very humbly that he's only a mask, and in this film he's only a mask. He's just wearing this zombie face with the maggots, but all the real work was done by actors such as Ian and the rest of the cast. What he wanted to say now is he would like to tell you something about the last movie he made with Fulci, if you'd like to hear it. Maestro?
Allora, ci trovavamo nelle Filippine, stavamo facendo Zombie 3, c'era Veran Serafia, tanti altri attori e attrici americane. Lui già non stava molto bene, è arrivato, aveva una pancia enorme, però la cosa che ci lasciava meravigliati, che lui voleva fare i sopralluoghi con la stanchezza, non si fermava mai, le riunioni al pomeriggio, le riunioni alla sera, questo per un paio di settimane prima che abbiamo cominciato il film. Quando abbiamo cominciato il film, i ritmi erano, a prescindere da un caldo tremendo, umidità nelle Filippine, ma i ritmi di lavoro erano veramente pesanti e noi vedevamo in lui l'essere che si stava spengendo. Tutta la sua grinta, tutto questo che aveva mano a mano, lo vedevamo che si spingeva. Difatti poi il finale del film l'ha fatto Bruno Mattei.
So this happened in the Philippines when they were shooting Zombie 3. And he was already visibly ill. His belly was really quite big. I'm not sure where he died of, but he looked very unwell. And however, he insisted in having a very hands-on approach and doing all the recce's himself, going to all the locations, checking everything out personally. Even though there was also a huge humidity in the place. He wouldn't make it to the end of the shoot because he actually passed away. This was his last movie, and he had to be finished by Bruno Matera. But the thing that he brings with him, with himself, is that they actually saw him slowly. In Italian we say switching the light off, so it's almost like the light was leaving him. Maybe we would say the life force was leaving him. So they saw him wither away during the shoot, and so that was quite sad. And that's the last experience on set with Lucio Fulci.
Grazie.
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 Grazie.